What's good, y'all? This is SA, and I'm gonna be real with y'all. I told you guys I was hoping to deliver this demo by the end of the year, but that is not happening. Yes, I know, I overpromised and underdelivered, but hey, it's not like you're not used to people doing that already. Jokes aside, I was on track to finishing up at least the first arc of the story by the end of this year, but I overestimated just how many bugs and quality of life changes were needed to make the game enjoyable to play. With that being said, I'm going to talk about the main thing I was doing during this month, which was the implementation of cutscenes. So let's just get into it. Alright, cutscenes. I've talked about the changes I've made to them in the past. If you haven't seen my previous video, then what are you doing? You should probably watch the playlist in order. But the cliff notes were that I made cutscenes easier to implement by utilizing new tools and techniques to ensure that the dialogue would be smoother and I wouldn't have to make too many duplicates. And this is all still true. For example, instead of having a text file for every single line of dialogue that a player or NPC says in a cutscene, in some cases, I can have all the dialogue inside of one ink file like this. And instead of creating duplicate timelines for male and female sprites, I can just create one timeline and have the male and female tracks deactivated depending on the player's avatar. So like I said, things are technically easier to implement. However, I also changed the story for the first arc of my game, and with that came changes to the cutscenes. In the past, I just had concepts of a story. Now, I have literal scripts and diagrams to flesh out my story and my game. And that made my project that originally had like 8 cutscenes for the arc balloon into something closer to 24. Yes, it is a lot. No, you do not technically go through all the cutscenes. But this is all in order to give you more content and ways to explore the game in a way that you wouldn't have before. Previously, you were stuck following the story because that was all you could do, and the story itself was pretty straightforward. But not only will you have more to do outside of these cutscenes, but the cutscenes themselves will be more enjoyable and narratively interesting as well. But enough of that though. For the 2 people who've made it this far, first of all, thank you. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And secondly, let me explain to you how cutscenes are actually implemented in my game. So my cutscenes have a playable director that holds a timeline of all the animations for the game objects in that scene. The playable director itself is controlled by a linked list of nodes that activate once a certain amount of time has elapsed in the timeline. A cutscene node can have a bunch of different types, which, no, I will not be going over in detail. Read the screen. Just know that similarly to the diagram I showed you in the past when brainstorming my cutscenes, the actual cutscene nodes act in a similar way. It's just that now the cutscene nodes are linked to a specific point in the timeline in order to give the impression that it's an actual cutscene. Oh yeah, and everything else is controlled by a cutscene game object. Here's the UML diagram if you're really interested. There were bugs for doing things this way, yes, but a lot of them were really minor. For one, there are cutscenes that activate as soon as the scene is live, which is a problem because there are certain scripts that use the player's animator component at the exact same time the cutscene is active. This just required me to adjust existing scripts to determine an order of operations regarding which script would use the animator component for the player. The second bug I had was that I didn't have enough experience making ink files, specifically ink files with decision-based dialogue in them. I used to make choices like this, but in many cases you were supposed to add choices like this. The problem with this was that my dialogue manager was not set up to take in ink responses in this way. So once I adjusted my dialogue manager, I reconfigured my ink files that had decision-based text in there so that everything would work correctly. Like I said, the bugs weren't that hard to solve, they were just hard to diagnose. As far as I can tell, I fixed any lingering bugs for my cutscene system and will be working on adding the rest of the cutscenes to the game to finally complete the story aspect of this demo. And that's all I got for you guys today. If any of these topics I talked about interested you in any way, I've left some links in the description that helped me get started on some of these features. Like I said in the outset, I probably will not have the game ready by the end of the year. I'm not even sure if I'll have the video out by the end of the year. But for now, I'll just be giving you guys the regular game development updates for Guardians of RPG, the same way I have been doing for the past few months. After cutscenes, I'll have a lot of quality of life changes and player testing to get through, so get ready for a bunch of boring updates in the following months. But if you're into that, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and yeah. I'll see y'all later. Peace.